Hey everyone, Dr. Jason West, joined with a special guest. This is my assistant T, and we're just excited to share with you some of the inner workings behind the scenes at the West Clinic. And so if you're just picking this up, we do this every Thursday at 5 o'clock. We talk about patient success stories, people that were out of hope and out of time and out of options, and how they get their life back. And one of the things we started doing a couple years ago was doing these testimonials, and I started having people say, Where do you find these actors? I'm like, they're not actors. They're real people. And then it went from there to a podcast and a live cast. And so we're excited to put this also on our podcast platform. And so Hellness to Wellness, why we get sick and what to do about it. And I'm excited that T volunteered to come in and work with me. That's not even her name. Her name's Tacia. I just call her T. And we're excited to be able to share those stories with you. And if you have any questions or comments about healthcare conditions, last week we did a Q&A. The week before we had a patient came on that was diagnosed with a terminal liver condition. His name was Mud Murdoch, and we heard his story. And so we're committed to doing this weekly. And I said, hey, I just want someone to help and get into the office and be able to really show everybody what it looks like. And so anyway, Tacia, thanks for coming on board. And a couple things, like one, tell people just kind of overview at the clinic. I think you've been there just over 5 years.
Yes.
All right. And so where did you come from before that? And why did you start there? Like, let's just kind of make it really easy. What kind of work did you do before? And then how did you end up working inside the team at the West Clinic?
All right. So I have dabbled in a lot of different things. I have worked as a paralegal. I worked at Franklin Middle School as the pass room. I worked at a physical therapy place and did a lot of secretarial things there. And I applied at the West Clinic just kind of on a whim. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and best move I ever made.
So you came into the clinic, and one of the things that I told you is, hey, you got to be prepared to deal with people that are happy, people that are sad, people that are healthy, people that are sick, and you're going to have some relationships that are really going to change your life. It's not just we're going to do something and we're going to go home. It really stays with you. So coming from all of those varied backgrounds, what was kind of the take of the clinic? Like what really stuck out for you when you started?
I think what really stuck out for me was being able to just try my hand at something different, just something that I never even imagined I would do, and I didn't even know really anything about natural medicine.
So you came from kind of a traditional mindset, and people ask us all the time, what do you treat? And I tell people, look, we don't treat three things. We don't deliver babies, we don't do surgery, and we really don't prescribe any drugs or do any type of chemotherapy. And when I first said that, people were like, what does that mean? But you've seen a lot of stuff in the office. Like, what are some of the stuff that you see?
So I've seen us help patients be able to have energy as they're going through chemo treatments. We help boost their immune system. And I've seen us help people with MS and patients with Lyme disease and patients that just need some energy, that haven't felt good for years.
And one of the things that I tell the office team, it's our goal to make it so that people feel really, really comfortable in the office. I think we break a lot of medical rules. Like, I don't want any barriers with patients, so I like to ask people about, what's happening in your life, what are your treatment goals, and I hug patients, and I know that you have some really long-standing patient relationships just with working on them. And just tell me a little bit about some of those relationships, because when people come into the office, like, we want to make them feel really important. We want to make them feel like this is something that's going to make an impact, and you see it all the time. And so I just want to get your perspective on what's it like to be friends with patients.
It's hard to describe. It's really amazing. I have a really good friend who I hold dear to my heart from Kansas City. I have friends in Washington State I wouldn't be able to meet or even get to know, have the privilege to have their influence in my life if it wasn't for the West Clinic.
Yeah, it's fun to do that. Now, you started off in a couple different roles in the office. Like you've been in a place, so it's kind of a unique perspective. You've worked helping people get their nutritional therapy in the office. You've done some work in the IV room. You've done some freelance stuff on the front. So what positions have you had inside the office?
So I think the position I really enjoyed and is able to help me with give other patients advice is the supplements. I worked the supplement counter for about 2 years and was able to really understand some supplements and how they work and how they can help people to help benefit them as while they're doing their IV treatments as well.
So one of the things that we tell people about, the healthy people are not imbalanced. Imbalanced people have these deficiencies that occur, and coming from kind of a traditional mindset, when people talk about supplements, a fair amount of people initially be like, I don't know about that, like it just makes expensive urine, and how come my real doctor isn't giving me vitamin C and vitamin D3? But I'm just curious, what has been your perspective change of nutritional supplements after you started working at the office?
I think there's just a lot more out there than just a multivitamin. We don't realize that there's natural ways to help with muscle cramps, leg pain, those kind of things without having to take pain meds.
It's true. Like muscle cramps, Charlie horses, restless legs, cholesterol, congestive heart failure, breathing difficulties can all be benefited with the right therapy. So you were a nutritional therapist for a while, then you had the opportunity to move into the IV room, and that's kind of the hub of our office. So tell us a little bit about what is it like to be inside the IV room at the West Clinic?
So what's really amazing to me is to listen to patients talk and build those relationships amongst themselves, because they all have a story and they've all have a path and they can relate to each other. So many of our patients are the only ones in their area, or their family doesn't understand. People don't understand what they're going through, but they can connect with somebody in the IV room that that gives them hope, and they get to hear their story.
So Tacia, I don't want you to use the patient's full name, but there is a lot of amazing outcomes. Like we used to call those outcomes inside the IV room and inside the clinic miracles, but I've totally changed that, because a miracle is when you do something and you don't know why people get better. And I think that what we have instead of that is outcomes. So tell me about one or two of your favorite outcomes. Like you've seen people come into the office, most of the time patients have seen 5 or 10 or even 15 different doctors before they get there, and they are cautious. I think a lot of times the natural skepticism of people coming in and doing something in the integrative medicine space is they just don't want to get their hopes up and then have them disappointed. And I tell people that's okay. That's okay to start with literally 0 expectations. But tell us about 1 or 2 outcomes that really come to mind, because you get to see things just like me in the trenches and seeing people that are out of hope and out of time and out of options, and all of a sudden they get their life back, and it's like one of the greatest feelings ever. But tell me about one of the patient outcomes.
So everybody got to listen to Mudd a couple weeks ago. Of course, he's one of them that every time we talk about good patient outcome, he's always one that comes to all of our minds. Another one is Ashley, and those of you that have ever watched Story Trek, her story is on that. She's amazing, and she'll come in and she sits and visits with patients and tells them her story, and it just helps breed more hope. It's amazing.
So Tacia, when you're in the IV room, you're working with patients, or you're on the phone working with nutrient therapy and stuff like that, you hear people all the time say, oh, but can it really help me? And when people say that, what is your response? Because it's the same response that all of us have, but what do you tell people?
I tell people, yes, it can really help you, because here's what happens when you have IV therapy is it is bypassing your gut. So if you have digestive issues, absorption issues, those vitamins are going directly into your system without you having to break them down, those vitamins and minerals. So your body is taking everything it needs, and it just goes right to the source.
Okay. We have a couple people we want to say hi to. Sharon Shopper, Tacia is the best, thank you. And Margaret Knocker, hi, Dr. J, and hi from Tacia. So we sure enjoy taking care of you guys. The other things that you've seen at the office that are striking when people come in and they're out of energy, and you get to see this progression over a series of treatments where they start here and then they think that they should be living here, but then they start coming up here. It's got to be kind of a fascinating thing. And one of the team members told me, Dr. J, I go home and I tell my family members and I tell my husband or I tell my cousin what happens in the office, and they're like, we don't know if we can believe you. So have you had that experience when you go home and you tell people this is what's happened, and they just, I mean, what's their response?
Yeah, there is some skepticism. One of my favorite patients I can think of, when she came in for her very first appointment, she couldn't even sit up to do her appointment. We had to lay her down on the couch for her appointment and get her straight. When she came to the IV room, get her in a recliner and lay her straight back. She could not sit for very long. She had been in her recliner at home for a couple of years, and within a month or so, she was driving herself to her appointments. And so it's just really amazing to see us be able to help her get her life back and not be living in a recliner in her living room.
So Tacia, the other thing is, so many times in the medical world, you get a diagnosis and then they give you a medication to, basically block or stop it. I call it basically a containment protocol. And when people call the office and they ask, can you treat this or can you treat that? And you can literally put any disease or diagnosis behind it. What do you say?
Yes, we can, because there's something missing somewhere. You're not balanced, and so when you come in, we're able to help figure out what the missing link is.
A couple shout outs really quick. Mama Preston, Denny.
Hi, Denny.
Hello. And then Clara Parkinson, super special to me. Hi, Clara. We talk about having patients from basically the cradle to the grave. So you've seen the whole spectrum of patients, and people will say, well, do you treat people that are retired? Do you treat people that are young? Do you treat kids? And your perspective of seeing the spectrum, who do we treat?
Everybody, from cradle to death, yes.
Another hi to a special patient. Stephanie Stoddard says, I love Tacia. I guess I'm just, chopped steak here. Anyway, everybody's saying how much they love Tacia, but Tacia gets to work with them in a really intimate space. Again, of bypassing the stomach, going right into the vascular system. When we do that, we can take enormous amounts of vitamins and nutrients and minerals and drop it into the bloodstream. And then people say all the time, well, how can you help this organ or this condition? And I'll say, well, does blood go to it? And they'll say yes. I'm like, then I think we can help, because we're just trying to put energy into the body. The other thing that was something that we've really tried to work hard on is making the office a great place to work, a fun place to work. And we do these special team meetings. Occasionally we'll do an awesomeness day. So have you worked in an environment where they've had Awesomeness Day before, and what is it? So give people a little bit of the secret behind the team at the clinic.
Okay. No, I've never worked anywhere where we have had Awesomeness Day. What Awesomeness Day is just a way to celebrate each other and ourselves, and we can't work at the West Clinic unless we're awesome. So that's really what we get to do. It's really a motivator and an energy booster, and it just makes you feel good. You're walking on cloud 9 for the rest of the day when we do that.
So a special day, periodically we do Awesomeness Day, where I have the team members send me a picture and a reason of why they're awesome, so that we can celebrate doing something special for people, which is when they're out of hope and out of time and options, like, we want them to know that, like, we're a little bit different. A special shout out to Cora. Cora's actually on our team, and she says, great job, Tacia and Dr. J. So Cora, one of these days, we're gonna have you be up here with Tacia. Yeah. Another question from Elodia K on YouTube. What are the best supplements for deep brain lesion and fatigue? So one of the biggest questions that we get asked all the time is, what can you do for brain health? What can you do for fatigue and exhaustion? So a little bit different questions. The first one is, I tell my wife all the time, I don't care about gray hair and wrinkles. I know the age train's happening, but if I lose my mind, bad things are gonna happen. So I really like to recommend to people, glycerophosphocholene is an instant brain food. There's another one called ribonucleic acid, which gives proteins to your brain. And then essential fatty acids are really, really good for protecting the brain and insulating the brain. So 4,000 to 6,000 milligrams of omega-3s to omega-6s is a good place to start for brain health. And then for fatigue, this is so common to see in people, especially right now in the quarantine section, because what's happening is it's not normal. You know, life isn't normal, and what happens is we get off kilter and we look for something stimulant or a crutch. And if you have any imbalances, what happens is a lot of times people will be like, hey, I just got to reach for a Coca-Cola, I got to reach for sugar, I got to reach for something sweet. And what happens is that gets in your system, you get a temporary flux of energy, and then what happens is the energy disappears, and because you didn't help your body, what occurs is you just get another craving. So with that being said, you need to get on a good vitamin program and a good mineral program for fatigue. Fatigue is very common associated with a chronic infection. So we think Lyme disease, we think of staph infections, we think of parasites, and if you help the body to get healed or to get imbalanced, then this healing word happens. And some of what we do in the office, a lot of what the patient does. Excuse me. All right, one of our buddies from the great booming megatropolis state of Wyoming, Robert Harmon, says, Dr. West, your whole team is awesome. If you missed the video about my wife's amazing story with her hormone zone, check out the Facebook page. Absolutely. So Julie Harmon is kind of a rock star in the office, medically disabled a couple years ago, and we were able to help her with the vitamin infusion therapy, which our whole team participates in, and also doing some nerve reset therapy, which is the nerve therapy, and then she was able to get some home oxygen therapies. Really, really neat. So one of the other things that happens in the office, Tacia, is it's not me in the office. So I'm the one that's really comfortable in front of the camera. We work on getting the message out, a better reach and a better platform. But there's some other providers in the office. So why don't we pick on Shelby, our WGMP, for a while. And everybody says, what does that mean? Like in our office, we actually have a door that says WGMP, and that stands for the world's greatest nurse practitioner. She's our medical director. But Tacia, what would you want patients and people to understand about Shelby?
Oh wow, there's so much. Shelby is like our go-to in the office. She is so good at keeping us all like level, and I love how she treats patients. When she is with you, you are the only patient, the only person she's thinking about, worrying about is the person sitting in front of her, and you have all of her attention, and she is always researching and figuring out how she can help patients better. And what I love is all three of our providers, they pick each other's brain, and they work together, and they collaborate to come up with the best plan for each patient.
So Shelby's been with us just about 6 years, I think, or coming up pretty close on that. And I love her because I can go to her and say, look, what about this medication? What about this nutrient? And I'm happy and I'm sad to report that a lot of people will go to her for injection therapy and they won't come back to me because they say that she's better. So Shelby, there you go. There's your shout out. Now, that's one. The other provider in the office that's with us full time is Dr. Nelson. So tell us a little bit about Dr. Nelson, AKA MacGyver.
MacGyver, oh boy. Dr. Nelson can do everything in the office. He is our go-to if something's not working right, whether it's you need acupuncture, whether you need an adjustment, injections, or if you broke something on your wall, he can fix it. He's our go-to amazing provider.
So, and then on Fridays we have Dr. Ward, and Dr. Ward has had a variety of forays into the medical world, chiropractor, naturopath, energy medicine healer, medical doctor that does a lot. So what would you like people to know about Dr. Ward?
Dr. Ward, he is just never in a hurry to do anything again. He will listen to what you have to say, and he is a great person to bounce ideas off, questions. He loves to sit and just visit with patients.
So a couple questions that we have. One, Margaret, our patient from the Midwest, says, I've had faulty eustachian tube since birth. Specialist says it doesn't grow down and the fluid doesn't drain, causes pain in the ear. I've been taking all my supplements. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. What should we do? So Margaret, on that, so sometimes it's really difficult for us to change some things that have occurred since birth. I mean, almost impossible for a genetic formation like that. However, I don't remember if we've done any cranial therapy. There's a specific way you can adjust the ears. There's a way to get ozone in the ears that I think would be good to do the ear insufflation treatments. And I'm happy to hear that you're taking your supplements, but I don't think we've exhausted all of our options. Acupuncture is a really good consideration for the energies and stuff. If we can make the ear treat as best as we can, we might have some really good outcomes. So next time I see you, we need to do some cranial work. And my dad showed me how to actually manipulate or adjust cranial bones. Maria Fofana, I am sorry if I slaughtered your name. Hi doctors, I've been having acid reflux for 4 months. What can I do? Well, this is one of our favorite things to treat. Tacia, how many of our patients have stomach problems?
Just about everyone.
Like literally everyone. If you can't digest your food, you can't break it down or absorb your food, like you literally can't be healthy. And so one of the things we like to recommend for acid reflux is to speed up digestion. So there's 2 causes of digestion, or GERD or acid reflux. Number 1, you don't digest the food, or you digest the food fast enough, so it sits there, it ferments, it rots, it decays, and so it comes up this way and it burns the esophageal sphincter. That's number 1. Number 2 is you really do have too much acid in the stomach, but most of the time it's the first one. You're not breaking down food correctly. And so what happens is if we can get you to take either apple cider vinegar, which is a tablespoon and a half a glass of water, right after meals, so the acetic acid in the vinegar helps to break things down, or a digestive enzyme, what it happens is if you speed up digestion, many of the times the acid reflux, the GERD will dissipate. Now there's a couple things that you can do to protect the stomach. There's a product that has montmorillonite clay in it and A, D, E, F, and K in it, and it acts to heal and soothe irritated GI tissue. You also want to make sure with those acid reflux cases that there isn't an underlying ulcer going on, and if there is, there's a wonderful ulcer protocol. Number 1, doing some vitamin C infusions. You skip the stomach, you go right into the blood, and what it does is it helps to heal the stomach from the inside out. And then also you need to do a medication review, because there's a lot of times medication can cause acid reflux. Another question, Dennis says, can a typhoid infection cause a leaky gut? And the answer is, of course it can. And here's what happens with infections. Chronic bacterial or viral infections, according to the British Journal of Medical Practitioners, can cause neurobehavior, neurodegenerative, psychiatric, autoimmune, and fatiguing illness. And what does that mean? It means that infections in your body go to the weakest link, and we've seen infections in the teeth cause MS. We've seen ulcerations in the foot cause heart problems. We've seen basically wounds that don't heal cause arthritis. I mean, anything can cause anything. And getting back to, we want to put balance in the system. Balance, balance, balance. Balanced people don't get sick and they don't have symptoms. So something is off in your physiology, which leads me to a nice little question. If you were in the supplement arena for 2 years and you kind of moved over to the basically skipping the stomach and going to the IV room, but out of the nutritional supplements they have, like tell me about one of the ones that you like, or one of your favorite ones, or one that patients report to you that says this really helps me.
So Epimune is one of our favorites. It's the boost your immune system. It's just a good supplement to take all the time.
And so the Epimune has calcium in it, it has vitamin C, it has echinacea, astragalus, it has shiitake and maitake mushrooms, and it's a really nice immune stimulator. One of our favorite uses for that is chronic viral infections, particularly Epstein-Barr. That's one of the neat things to do. Another good application of that is Lyme disease or chronic sinusitis. Teresa Fogelman, I used to handle stress better 10 years ago. Well, we need to reverse the clock. I'll put in the order upstairs. We want to go back to 2010. I wouldn't mind going back there myself. Now I have a hard time focusing and getting things done. I'm just past half a century. I'd like to say it that way. I've just passed 53. Maybe it's hormones. It very possibly could be, Teresa, what I would recommend, getting a complete blood cell count with auto differentiation, a metabolic panel, a T3, T4, a TSH, a total iron. Those are in my book. And if you haven't seen this, drwest.info gives you information about the book. The last chapter in the appendix talks about recommended blood tests. And then she said, also, could it be hormones? And the answer is very likely. There's a hormone protocol that we use in the office that tests estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and cortisol. Gives you a really nice basis. But even bigger than that, or more important than that, if you'll just do a simple test, and we do this on all patients, new patients come in the office, and all patients on the reevaluation is to do Ragland's test, which is taking your blood pressure lying down and taking your blood pressure standing up. And Tacia, why do we do that? So we talk about it, I'm sorry I put her on the spot. She's helped me do this for a long time. How many times do people's blood pressure go up like it's supposed to? That's maybe what I should ask.
Yeah, actually it's amazing the difference from laying down to standing.
And it hardly ever goes up, does it? Like your blood pressure lying down, 120 over 80. When you stand up, it should go about 126 over 86. Your adrenal glands should tell your heart to beat harder. And geez, when's the last time you saw it when it was normal?
I can't even think of one.
And the reason why she says that is because everybody's stressed. I mean, I don't know if you guys are aware, I guess there's this like virus around somewhere that's affecting some parts of the world. And of course, I'm being facetious when I say that, but the coronavirus, the pandemic and everything, it's adding to the stress levels and it blows your circuits. It's so hard. A big shout out to Sarah Winbigler. Your staff is one of the best I've ever dealt with, all of them. Thanks, Sarah. We work really hard on that. We have consistent team meetings. We share what's going on in our lives. We go over the patient lists. We talk about things that are important. We talk about the supplements and the different infusions and stuff like that. Because if we have a good work environment, we can really deliver on a good patient experience. And so we just wanted to, give a little bit again of the insight inside the office. We're also really big on you knowing different positions and you knowing different team members. So we have a front desk position, we have a checkout, we have an assistant, we have a team leader, and we have a patient care coordinator. And so give me a little bit of insight about your fellow team members. Tell me about who you work with. So tell us about Misty and Jody. I mean, I don't want to skip any names, but and it would take a long time for her to do that because she's going to brag on all of them. But give me a little insight of the team.
I love our energy. We all work together super well. And you can't come to the clinic really without seeing each one of us. If you see Dr. J, you're going to get to meet Macy. She's awesome. When you come for Shelby or Dr. Nelson, you get to meet Cora, and Cora just has the kindest heart. Macy has the best energy and is super, super sweet. And but when you first come, you get to meet Susie. She's the one that sits at the front desk, and she is just amazing at her job, and she loves everyone. Jody, if you call the office, a lot of times you're going to talk to Jody if you have questions. She's our patient care coordinator, and she's the one that gets things done. I love Jody's energy. Misty's our team leader. Misty rocks. She is the most compassionate person you've ever met. She comes across, she thinks she's mean and tough, but she's totally not. She's the biggest softie you've ever met in your whole entire life. And Kelly does a lot of our wellness. We just have an amazing team. We're like a well-oiled machine. We know what we're doing.
So it's funny that you talked about Misty. She's been with us 14 years. Jody's been with us for a long time. Everybody on the team that you mentioned, of course, I couldn't function really without Macy. But one of the other funny things that we've done, and when I say funny, maybe that's not right. One of the other things that we've done is we've added a wellness component with Kelly. And so Kelly is, has a master's degree in human performance. She was really wanting to help people with energies, kind of, our kids are a little bit older and they don't need her quite as much, even though she does say, I got to run off to somewhere to be with my girls. But when we brought in Kelly, what component did Kelly add to the West Clinic experience?
I think, so I have to be very careful when I'm around Kelly. I'm afraid I'll drive her crazy because if you've met me, I'm high energy. I'm like a tornado that blows through. But Kelly is very calming, and Kelly listens to everything you say, and she thinks before she answers. I love Kelly.
How would that be?
Yeah.
I wonder what that would be like. Yeah. All right. A shout out to Cupcake Paper, one of my favorite YouTube fans. what would you do for mast cell disorders and orthostatic high blood pressure? So a couple things with that. One, Cupcake, is mast cell disorders is basically a histamine storm. We have something going on, and these mast cells are releasing basic inflammatory markers. And again, you just want to go back and find what is the trigger and what is imbalanced. So I've seen pretty good outcomes with that in getting rid of toxic thyroid. We do that with an herb called yakatron. It's a Japanese herb. It's like a natural antihistamine. That's one thing. Another thing, so the vitamin C infusions are a really good place in here because vitamin C helps with the immune system response, and mast cells are basically a part of our immune system is going nuts. And so there's a couple ideas with that. The orthostatic high blood pressure question that you asked happens all the time when people are stressed. And it could be financial stress, emotional stress, relationship stress, political stress, kid stress, parent stress. And what happens is your adrenal glands are telling your heart to do things. There's two things that happen. If we have overactive stress markers, the minute we get into a stressful situation, they fire, and then like you get really worked up. And then if that happens for a time period, the opposite occurs. The adrenal glands get exhausted, and then you can't keep up, and so your heart has to race, and so you get cardiac fatigue. And this is the blood pressure question that Tacia has been doing in the office for a couple years now. When you take the blood pressure lying down, and then when you stand up, your blood pressure should go up, but your pulse rate is the same. And another question we get asked frequently on our live cast is something to do with ear pain, also known as tinnitus. So one of my friends that's an ear specialist is telling me, Dr. West, you know, there's not a lot of pain fibers associated with the tympanic membrane, your eardrum, and so how it expresses pain is it rings. And so a lot of times people say, you know, I have ringing in the ears all the time, but oh my gosh, at night, it is so much worse. And why it's worse is because there's nothing to distract you. There's not a lot of sounds distracting. A lot of people say, hey, I have to put on some white noise, I have to turn on the TV, I have to turn on the radio or something, or I can't sleep, my ears are ringing so bad. And this can be an easy, hard thing to treat. Easy means sometimes people have a really nice response to tinnitus. Other times it's really difficult, but some thoughts on tinnitus. Number one, my favorite thing to do for tinnitus right off the bat is to give a really soft calcium called calcium lactate. Now there's a whole bunch of sources of calcium available. Most of the stuff on the market is like rocks. It's called calcium carbonate. You can go down to the box chain store, you go to the grocery store, and it says, hey, we have 100 times normal calcium, or it's 1,000% of RDA levels. But that doesn't mean that you can use it. It doesn't mean that it's absorbable. What it means is just calcium. And it's like putting rocks in your stomach. You can't break it down. They estimate that calcium carbonate, I think, is somewhere around 4%. Calcium citrate is about 8%. Calcium malate is literally double, 16 to 20%. Calcium lactate, it seems to be over 50% absorbable. And so if you get the right calcium in your system, it's so good for getting tinnitus to calm down. Now, it doesn't work every time, but there's really no downside to a really soft calcium. Also, there is what's called a protomorphogen therapy. And what that is it's a building block for organ function. There's one specifically for the nerves. It's a nerve repair therapy. And you can get that to help calm down the nerves. Dr. Nelson does a really neat adjustment where he grabs your ear and kind of moves like that, and actually you pull and you'll feel some adjustments inside of the ear, a little popping and stuff. It's a technique that my grandfather taught my dad taught me, Dr. Nelson's dad taught him how to do it. If you haven't had an ear adjustment and you have tinnitus, like please, either look us up, do something with us, or find someone that does some cranial manipulation. You can adjust the ear canal and the tympanic membrane. Now, I have to be careful when I say this because I don't want to say everybody's a favorite patient, but a very special patient, Dixie and Lyle. Hey, you guys, it says, any suggestions for friends who keeps getting kidney stones? Well, Dixie, there's two types of kidney stones. There's uric acid kidney stones and there's calcium kidney stones. And it's nice to know which one is which. If they do an x-ray or a CT, it's almost always a calcium kidney stone. You could also do a blood test and you're looking at uric acid levels. If your uric acid levels are above 6.8, which is saturation, you usually will develop kidney stones. And so when you talk about your friend, a couple things. If we know what type of kidney stones there are, the treatment protocol is really straightforward. If it's uric acid kidney stones, we want to calcify. If it's calcium kidney stones, we want to acidify. And so we kind of need to know what it is. Now, simple blood tests will tell us you want to get lots of water and avoid uric acid causing foods, regardless of which one it is. So pork and soda pop are really big contributors to that. Want to look at digestive pathways. There's also a specific way to massage the kidneys by doing what's called a sign surge treatment, where you take some pads and you put them over basically the kidney region. It ramps up electrical therapy and it ramps down, so it's like you start to feel electric, it's a little bit harder, and then it backs off. It's really comfortable, but it's a kidney massage. And by the way, if you're having a kidney stone attack, it is miraculous. So, and by the way, I know this because I had a kidney stone. I'm embarrassed to tell this to everybody. And the reason why is because I wasn't following my own instructions to patients. I got really busy. I didn't drink as much water as I should. I got a kidney stone. It's the worst. Anybody that's had a kidney stone, I feel for you. Stephanie Stoddard, how about celiac disease? Yes, I've never heard of it before. Wait a minute. Is it celiac or is it Suzak? It's so hard to find good help these days. Becky's over here typing away on the computer. I'm not sure that she typed in right. Becky, is it Suzak disease?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Stephanie, I'm sorry that I teased Becky about I don't know what Suzak disease is. I'll go look it up and I'll report back to you, and we'll do our live cast next week at Thursday at 5 o'clock. You'll see this, which by the way, if you're watching this, I'm asking you for your help. So to reach more people, have a better platform. One of the most frustrating things that I experience with patients is when they say, I just wish I would have known what you guys were doing before. Mm-hmm. And how often do you hear that?
Yeah, all the time. So many times a day do I hear, wish we would have found you guys sooner.
Okay.
Yes.
And Caden over here, my super smart son, is helping me, and he says, Suzak disease is a relatively rare disorder characterized by three problems: impaired brain function, partial or complete occlusion of the small arteries that supply blood to the retina, and inner ear disease. So I've never heard of this before. Thank you, Caden, for making me look good. Oh yeah, I knew all thing about it. I just wanted to read to you guys to it. That being said, when it talks about occlusive therapies and ear problems, Stephanie, what I would recommend is, like, we want to improve circulation as much as possible. If we can get good nutrients and oxygen to the area, a lot of things go away. And this is common in peripheral neuropathy. It's what happens in macular degeneration, and now it happens in Suzak syndrome. So a couple things. Beet leaf greens are so good for capillary integrity. Also, things like chelation therapy is in consideration, both oral and IV treatments. And then you gotta clean up what's going into your system. Garbage in, garbage out. So bad things for your system like acid. Way too many people are drinking acid, also known as soda pop. And inflammatory foods, white sugar, high fructose corn syrup, are going to aggravate conditions like Suzak syndrome, which, by the way, I'm going to get more educated on that, Stephanie, so I can talk to that. Now, just as a real quick help for us, please like and share the video. Tell your friends about it, because we want to improve as many lives as possible. We appreciate that. I know Tacia was really worried about coming on our program, and she did fantastic. So I want to give her a round of applause like that for her. She's been with me 5 years. And it's fun to talk to Tacia. She always talks to me about my shoes, which, if you guys know me, I love shoes. I probably have more shoes than my wife. I mean, it's a rumor, but it may be true. Cole Hahn's, big shout out for you guys if you wanted to be a sponsor, my favorite shoes. And then the other thing is I love glasses, and she's always like, hey, I haven't seen those glasses before. So anyway, that's kind of a neat thing to do. But like and share the podcast. Thursday night, 5 o'clock Mountain Time. Next week, I'm trying to help a patient get courage to come on the program. I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'm going to give a couple live shout outs on Monday, Tuesday, if I can get her to do it. It's an awesome story. And she's like, well, I just don't know. I got to get my hair done. I got to go to makeup. I got to go to wardrobe. And I'm like, no, it's just, I just want people to hear a story of someone that literally said, my life is never going to be the same, and she got it back. So thank you so much for joining us today on Wellness to Wellness Livecast. Why you get sick and what to do about it. Don't forget to like and share our videos so as we can help as many people as possible. And you can get information on my book at drwest.info. Also, we do have a really nice YouTube channel called Healthy Healing TV. You can go on there. We have over 225 videos. A special shout out to Jose that's helping me do that. Caden for helping me putting the live cast together, Becky for help coordinating things. And then also, it's not just us saying it. You can see patient testimonials on our testimonial blog called The Daily Dose of Vitamin H. This is Dr. Wes and Tacia signing out. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.